Here with some inside information on managing your money is Daniel P. Reeve. He is the president of DPR Financial Services. Will give us a quick overview of 2006 in the business world, the winners and the losers.
Well, certainly losers, auto sector, and anybody affiliated with it. We're going to have a big trickle-down effect there. Alberta was very good, booming. Housing, of course, was quite a place to be. Emerging markets to some degree. If we're looking geographically, Europe was quite a nice place, Pacific Rim. Some good stories. Okay,
looking ahead to 2007, let's start with people who are going to be buying or selling a house. What are they looking at?
Well, I think sales have plateaued and pricing has plateaued. I think it's becoming more of a buyer's market than it was a seller's. If you were thinking of selling your house, hopefully you did it last year. It's going to be a little bit tougher go this year. Definitely a softening in that sector. Good news, though, there's about $100 million at stake on the books for building permits for 2007. And if that flies, it's going to be a very interesting spring 2008.
Of course, the housing market in Alberta is still very hot. Boom time's going to continue there?
I think so. I think it's in for probably a year and a half, maybe 2 years.
Yeah. Well, at Christmas time, of course, the malls were completely packed, but I don't suppose that's an indication on what the retail market is all about last year and the year ahead for retail.
Well, certainly on the West Coast, I think things will continue along. It's a tough go in Ontario. It's not a sector I like. It's certainly not a place I like to be on the weekends, but I'm a guy. I get in and I get out. I think it's going to remain soft for quite some time.
When it comes to investing, what do you like, what do you not like?
Geographically, love Europe. I think we're watching for the U.S. to come back. I think the Dow will break 1,500, 1,550. Not bad. You're looking at 8 to 12% there. That's pretty good considering where it has been the last couple of years. And Far East is a very good story. Resources are good. A little bit of real estate still has some legs, especially if it's international.
Well, you mentioned the auto industry. I want to get into that with a little bit of detail. How good or bad is it for people in southwestern Ontario?
I think it's awful and it's going to get worse. The trickle-down effect is going to be a nightmare. I think there's going to be more bloodletting. I wouldn't be surprised if some sort of strategic partnership, possible merger would occur. I know that there's talks with Toyota right now. What a great company, huge success story, and they've earned it all. It's a good story, and they are really teaching a lesson to North American auto manufacturers.
So when you say a merger between Toyota and?
It's out there. I'd love to see it.
A North American company.
It could happen.
And now people who travel want to have a strong Canadian dollar. People who are in manufacturing obviously want a weaker dollar. What do you see happening with the loonie?
I think Canada will strengthen a little bit. We could see a little bit come off the interest rates, quarter, half a point, not much more. I don't think they're going up. And I think that that'll help a little bit in the strengthening. Nothing major.
Now, big business usually likes to have a conservative government. Does big business like Stephen Harper?
I think they like him less because of the income trust fiasco. I mean, that was a broken promise. And, you know, I think he brought a lot to the table. There was a lot of promises. I like what he did on the GST, although it was a portion of what was promised. But I think this was a blunder. I think it's going to hurt him. But given some of the alternatives, you know, I don't know that it's going to be that much of a horse race. I think Canadians are going to give him a little more time, see what else he can do.
And speaking of Canadians, let's get right down to the little guy. Many people always resolve in the new year to get their finances in order. Generally speaking, are Canadians good or bad at handling their money?
No, we're lousy at it. I think it's terrible. Canadians, I think the only population that's worse is the U.S. We got a lot to learn. I think, you know, being that it's a new year, it's a great opportunity to really do something as far as an action that's going to make a difference. And one of the first things you should do is have a written plan. And yet 5% of Canadians have one. And yet of those 5%, the vast majority have a net worth in excess of $2 million. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that we still plan more for our holiday and for Christmas and maybe for the new diet that we're going to break than we do for our retirement. And that's a problem. So definitely a new plan, and I think another thing that could be done is demand more out of your financial advisor. You know, really make him or her accountable for performance, for servicing, for bringing new ideas to the table. That's what you're there for. And yet far too many of them bring you in as a client, and they're on to the next client. And I think most Canadians need to step up and demand a little bit more from their professional.
I think a lot of people just have no clue how to get a good financial advisor. How do you know if they're good at their job?
Well, certainly start with referrals. It's always a great place to go. We do it for movies, we do it for restaurants. Why wouldn't we do it for our finances? Talk to mom and dad, talk to our friends, and then have an interview process. And you should be asking all kinds of questions like, how do you earn your money? What incentive do you have once I become a client? How often am I going to hear from you? In what capacity? There's so many questions. And there are many good financial services sites, so you can contact Fisco or the OSC and check out their sites as to what criteria should you be following. Or, hit Chapters or Indigo. There's lots of books on how to select a good advisor.
I thought it was curious recently in the newspaper reading that 20% of Canadians are counting on winning the lottery for their retirement plan.
Well, that's a desperate plea, isn't it? It's a pretty sad state of affairs. But you know what? If we don't get a handle on this, we're in for some dire times here. And it's really up to each individual to step up and take a little bit more command of what their future really is. And they can do it. It's not hard, but you got to partner with the right person.
Daniel P. Reeve, thank you for your predictions today.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.